We've mentioned this group of Tories before, but there are such things as, believe it or not, green Tories. There are groups of Tories who absolutely understand the need to go for net zero and to have this transition into green renewable technologies, as well as the energy transition as well. There are very few, but at one time they could have, because, well, who knows what's going to happen, but make no mistake, I think this is going to be yet another issue that gets discussed in the non-parliamentary party about how much funding a conservative organization as it will continue. How much should it focus on green technologies, net zero stuff? What should it do on this? But more interestingly, of course, is Chris Skidmore. Now, Chris Skidmore, again, probably disagree with him on every other asset of his, political stuff. But when it comes to the green stuff, the transition from net zero, from where we are now to net zero, from moving away from carbon fuels, fossil fuels, etc., to green renewable alternatives, and the economic benefits that will bring, hey, he gets it. Like, he absolutely gets it 110%. And it's very rarely you go, hey, that's, disagree with him on everything else, but hey, at least he gets the idea and the necessary stuff to actually transition over to stuff like, having a green transition. But this now becomes another interesting key voter point, because as Chris Skidmore was like the leader of like the Green Tories, not like as an official grouping, but almost in many ways the de facto leader of this group. Now, he's come out this morning, or shall we say just yesterday, saying that I'm now not going to vote for the Tories, I'm going to vote for Labour. Now, this is a huge blow to Sunak. Do not underestimate how bad this is, because you've now got the most senior Tory that there used to be switching, saying, I'm not going to vote for them because their green policies, all the stuff that we need, I'm just gonna go vote for Labour because at least they're doing it. And by doing this, how many other green Tories out there now go, oh, actually, I should vote for Labour as well, after what Chris Skidmore has said as well. Make no mistake, this will once again be a very detrimental to Sunak, but in terms of votes, how big this will be, I can't say. But bear in mind, when the Green Tory movement was very much a thing, Chris Skidmore was like their version of their guiding light and etc. And what he says and stuff like this will affect a lot of Tories in their decision to vote. So this, once again, a big blow to Rishi Sunak. But we'll get more into recently what he said and why, of course, he's decided to move on this. So before we do continue, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to the Patreon page, the Motivation link, the Buy Me Coffee link, the YouTube thank you button, and of course the Pony Club down below as well. So, Chris Skidmore, the former czar, as the post became known, of net zero. And this was a guy who was, ousted by Boris Johnson. And then when Sunak announced new drilling licenses for oil and gas, he quit the party in a very, very public way, saying, we are going in the absolute wrong direction on this. We really need to make more effort and more focus towards renewables. And he wrote a very, very big piece in The Guardian about why he was changing, and more importantly, why we need a Labour government because of that. So this is what he had to say about that Guardian particular article where he was writing about that. So he said, as a former energy minister, I cannot back the Tories. He said they have now argued that net zero was a complete burden and not a benefit. And this is a decision he says will now cost voters. In a deeply personal attack, he then wants to accuse the Prime Minister of breaking the consensus on the past of the climate action to now seek division and polarization, suggesting it was now the greatest tragedy of his premiership. Saying worse still has now been the rhetoric and the extreme tone that has sought to politicize net zero by being forced upon people. This is now a false narrative that it is either the product from ignorance or just deliberate misinformation. So that, I think, sends a very, very strong poll on this. Very strong poll. Very, very strong on this. But of course, as I said, he actually gets the transition because he breaks a lot of the consensus that has sort of come about from most Tories when you see them talk about net zero. So he said this as well. He said it has now cost the UK, not just environmentally, but economically. It has now cost the Conservative Party the ability to demonstrate that it is the party of the environment and nature. It was a decision that will now cost votes, including my own. And for the first time, I cannot vote for a party, for my party, that has boosted new oil and gas licenses in its manifesto, or that now argues that net zero is now a burden, not a benefit. And of course, he talks about the green industrial revolution. We've mentioned this before that if we go in this direction, we could have a huge number of benefits. In America, you've got the I can't remember what they call it now. The act that Biden passed. A ton of new green infrastructure technologies being built as we speak. Europe is about to do something very similar. Meanwhile, Rishi Sunak just goes, we'll cancel it. So this will have, I think, a very, very detrimental effect on maybe some seats, not all. Like I say, I don't know sort of how powerful a voting bloc that is in the UK, like Green Tories. But make no mistake, Chris Skidmore was like the leading light evangelist on this. After he was left the government by Boris Johnson, he went on a massive public speaking tour around the UK talking about the green industries and net zero and how we can reach that. And one of the things, if you followed him any recently, he constantly really does talk about the people he has met and the businesses that he has spoken to all want to go in that direction. Whereas if you listen to anyone like Farage or the Conservative Party, they'll be like, no, businesses tell me we don't want to go that direction. It's just too expensive. We'll end up having, blackouts. What? It's the rhetoric now of populists, because it really does seem Farage is going to go after net zero, especially in the years to come. Even, as we've heard before, demanding a referendum on net zero. But how big a move this will have, with probably one of the most senior Tory ministers there was, now saying that he's going to vote Labour, but also how many now Green Tories that were maybe still on the fence are now going to sort of jump off that fence and now vote for Labour. So we'll see how bigger impact, of course, this comes down the line. But make no mistake, I think after this has all been said and done, where we are getting sort of the breakdowns of why people voted, what people went, don't be surprised to see, net zero stuff, environmental stuff, in the reason why people switch their votes away from the Tories. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.